Nobody talks about this one because it doesn't sound like a problem. You've got your strategy dialed in. You know what you're looking for. You know the setups, the levels, the conditions that need to be present before you pull the trigger. You sit down, you chart out the session, and then you wait. And wait. And wait some more. And at some point during that waiting, something unexpected happens. It gets boring. Not frustrating, not anxious, just genuinely, quietly boring. Like watching paint dry on a good setup that hasn't been triggered yet. Like sitting at a desk where nothing is particularly urgent and nothing demands your attention. And all you're really doing is watching a screen that may or may not give you what you came for. Here's the thing. That boredom, that's not a problem. That's actually a good signal, and one of the clearest signals that your trading is working the way it's supposed to. Because the traders who are never bored, the ones who are always busy, always in positions, always finding something to act on, those are the traders who are overtrading, who are forcing entries, who are confusing activity with progress and motion with edge. The trader who is genuinely bored is the trader who knows exactly what they're looking for and is simply waiting for it to show up. And that patience, that willingness to sit in boredom rather than escape it with a marginal trade, is one of the most advanced things a trader can do. Today, we're going into exactly why. Think about what has to be true for trading to feel boring. Your strategy has to be clearly defined. You know exactly what qualifies as a valid setup and exactly what doesn't. Your preparation has to be complete. You've done the work before the open. You've identified the levels. You've set the context. And your emotional state has to be settled enough that you're not generating internal noise to fill the silence. The boredom isn't emptiness. It's clarity. It's what clarity feels like in a quiet market. Compare that to the trader who is never bored, who is always scanning, always drawing, always finding a reason to be in a trade or on the edge of one. That trader isn't experiencing more edge than the bored one. They're experiencing more activity. And activity without edge is the definition of overtrading. The constant engagement is covering something. Either a strategy that isn't clear enough to create a defined waiting period, or a psychological discomfort with inaction that gets resolved by manufacturing reasons to trade. There's a reason the most seasoned traders, people who have been doing this for years and have genuinely profitable track records, tend to describe their trading in ways that sound almost understated. They talk about it the way a craftsman talks about their work on a quiet day. Methodical, patient, occasionally active, mostly waiting for the right conditions to appear. The excitement that beginners associate with trading, the constant screen watching, the flurry of positions, the feeling that something significant could happen at any moment, fades as skill develops. Not because the trader stopped caring, because they understand clearly enough what they're looking for, that everything else is simply noise to sit through. Boredom in trading is the result of knowing what you're doing. It means the strategy is internalized, the preparation is done, and the only remaining task is execution, which only becomes available when the market cooperates. Everything before that is waiting, and waiting is part of the job. A trader constantly looking at the screen, charts covered in drawings and indicators, scanning multiple timeframes simultaneously, positions opening and closing throughout the session, fully engaged with every tick. Busy, active, in the market. That image reads as mastery. It looks like someone who really knows what they're doing. It isn't. In the vast majority of cases, That's what anxiety dressed up as competence looks like, or boredom being solved with activity, or a strategy that isn't clear enough to define what is not my setup, so everything becomes a potential entry. Real trading, the kind that works over time, the kind that produces consistent results across months and years, looks almost nothing like that image. It looks like preparation, then waiting, then a brief window of execution, then more waiting. The ratio of active decision-making to passive observation is heavily weighted toward passive. A trader who takes one or two genuinely qualified trades in a session and then closes the platform has almost always done more useful work than one who took 15 positions and is still trying to recover from the third one. Your strategy tells you what you're looking for. You chart it out before the open. You identify the levels where the setup would be valid. And then you wait to see whether the market delivers those conditions or not. If it does, you execute. If it doesn't, you don't. That's it. That's the whole job on most days. And yes, it is mostly sitting on your hands. That's not a flaw in the approach. That's the approach working correctly. The market doesn't owe you activity. It doesn't owe you setups every hour. Some days it gives you 2 clean opportunities. Some days it gives you 1. Some days the conditions never quite align, and the honest response is to take no trades at all and call it a day. Learning to be at peace with that, to sit through the boredom without reaching for a trade to fill it, is not a passive skill. It is one of the most active, deliberate, and difficult things a trader can practice. For some traders, boredom is uncomfortable. Not dramatically, not in the way that fear or frustration is uncomfortable, but it creates a low-level, persistent sense that something should be happening and isn't. And that discomfort is amplified by the world we live in. Most of us have become accustomed to constant stimulation. Notifications, short-form videos, doom scrolling, endless feeds. Our attention is being pulled in 100 directions every day. We've trained ourselves to expect novelty every few seconds because we know we can get that stimulation at any moment we want. So when trading requires us to sit quietly and wait for a setup that may not appear for 30 minutes, an hour, or even the entire session, it feels unnatural. The market hasn't become a problem. The absence of stimulation has. The brain, which was built to respond to boredom by finding something to do, starts scanning the environment for anything that looks like an opportunity. A candlestick that almost looks like a valid signal. A level that kind of holds. A setup that's close enough that a case could be made for that trade. The brain isn't looking at these objectively. It's looking for reasons to act, because acting resolves the boredom. The analysis comes after the decision has already been made emotionally. This is post hoc rationalization, and we covered it in the FOMO video. In the context of boredom trading, it's the same mechanism. The feeling drives the decision. The analysis is the story told afterward. The cost is specific and cumulative. Every boredom trade that gets taken is a forced trade, a marginal entry that wouldn't survive honest scrutiny against the strategy's actual criteria. And forced trades, as we covered in the patience deep dive, don't just cost what they lose. They contaminate the performance data, making it harder to evaluate whether the strategy is working. They consume emotional capital that should be preserved for genuine setups. And they reinforce the habit of acting on discomfort rather than waiting through it, which, practiced across hundreds of sessions, becomes the reason traders can't be patient, even when they intellectually understand why they should be. Every time you take a trade to escape the boredom and it loses, the brain doesn't just register a financial loss. It registers the boredom as having produced a bad outcome, which makes it slightly more uncomfortable the next time, which creates slightly more urgency to escape it, which makes the next forced trade slightly more likely. Boredom isn't the problem. The escape from it is. And the escape can compound. So now, what does it actually look like to sit in boredom rather than escape it? The first thing is practicing boredom outside of trading. Most traders only try to practice patience when they're sitting in front of the charts. But patience isn't a trading skill. It's a life skill that shows up in trading. If every moment of boredom during the day gets filled with stimulation, scrolling through your phone while eating, watching videos while waiting in line, reaching for content the second there's a quiet moment, you're training your brain to avoid boredom whenever it appears. Trading asks you to do the exact opposite. It asks you to sit with the absence of stimulation and not immediately resolve it. To wait, to observe, to let nothing happen for a while. That's why practicing boredom outside of trading can be surprisingly valuable. Eat a meal without your phone. Sit outside for 10 minutes without music or a podcast. Go for a walk and let your mind wander. Spend time simply thinking and reflecting instead of consuming. None of these things make you a better trader directly. What they do is train your ability to remain comfortable when nothing is demanding your attention. The second is having a defined alternative to trading when the setup isn't there. Not just, I won't trade when there's nothing valid, but a specific, pre-decided activity for the waiting period. Reviewing past trades in the journal. Studying a historical chart. Reading something related to market structure or psychology. Anything that keeps the mind engaged without involving live trading decisions. The boredom is easier to sit in when the platform isn't the only option available. When nothing is setting up has a pre-decided response, the urgency of the boredom doesn't automatically default to finding something in the charts to trade. The third, and this one takes time to build but is the most powerful, is finding genuine satisfaction in the well-managed quiet session. A session where you identified your levels, watched the market closely, saw setups that almost met the criteria and passed on every one of them, and closed the platform with the account exactly where it started. That is a successful trading session. Not a disappointing one, not a wasted one. A successful one. The account wasn't damaged. The discipline held. The strategy was applied correctly. The only thing missing was a winning trade. And winning trades are the market's job to provide, not yours to manufacture. The trader who can close a no-trade session and log it as a professional day has developed something that most traders spend years working toward and never quite reach. Not because it requires extraordinary willpower, but because it requires a genuine shift in what success means. And that shift, once it lands, makes the boredom feel completely different. Not like a problem to solve, like the job doing exactly what it should. If your trading is boring, that's worth something. It means you know what you're looking for. It means the preparation is done and the criteria are clear. It means you've developed enough understanding of your strategy that the market can do its thing and you can simply watch, calmly, without urgency, until it gives you what you need. The traders who struggle with boredom aren't struggling because they need more setups. They're struggling because they haven't yet made peace with the waiting. They still associate activity with competence, engagement with edge, busyness with progress. The moment that association breaks, the moment they genuinely understand that the best traders in any market spend most of their time doing nothing that resembles trading, the boredom stops being uncomfortable and starts being comfortable. Expected, even. Embrace the boredom. Chart your strategy, set your levels, and wait for the market to tell you whether your setup is there or not. If it is, execute cleanly, manage correctly, let the process run. If it isn't, close the platform and call it a well-managed session. Because sitting on your hands when there's nothing to trade isn't passive. It's one of the most active, deliberate, and professional things you can do at that desk.